Hi, I'm Courtney at womenlivingwell.org and goodmorninggirls.org, and we are up to verse 26 in our Proverbs 31 series. And a few weeks ago, I encouraged you to join me in memorizing the Proverbs 31 passage. So I'm going to back up to verse 10 and just take it from there. And it says, "A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like a merchant ship bringing her food in from afar. She gets up while it is still dark and provides food for her family and portions for her servant girls. She considers a field and buys it, and out of her earnings she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for the task. She sees that her trade is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes the coverings for her beds, and she is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes a seat among the elders." And that brings us up to verse 24 that says, "She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity and can laugh at the days ahead." And then today's verse is verse 26. It says, "She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue." She speaks with wisdom. You know, I find it ironic. For the first 21 years of my life, my maiden name was Wise. So my name was Courtney Wise. And when I was in college, many of my professors would call on me and they would call me Miss Wise. And so they say, "Miss Wise, what's the answer to this question?" And I call it ironic because, to be honest, I was very much a woman in search of wisdom, but I certainly would never want to be called Miss Wise, because wise was not how I would describe my speech at the time. You see, in Proverbs 10, verse 19, it says, "When words are many, sin is not absent, but he who holds his tongue is wise." I've always been a chatterbox, and so I've struggled with this because it says when words are many, sin is not absent. You see, I talk a lot, and so when words are many, there's a lot of chances for there to be a lot of slip-ups, and for those of you who know me well, you know that I put my foot in my mouth a lot because I have a lot of thoughts. But you know what is so important, and what I see has transformed and changed my life and helped me in my speech patterns, is the cultivating of our minds. You see, the Proverbs 31 woman did not neglect her mind, but yet she filled it. She filled it with wisdom. She was in God's word, and she sought out wisdom. That's the only way she could have wisdom, to actually speak back then out. And so it's so important what we put in our thoughts, because what we think is how we'll speak, and how we speak then affects our actions and what we do. And so if we spend a lot of time feasting our minds on people who do not fear God, on television and movies and websites written by people who don't fear God, or if we feast our mind on things that go contrary to God's word, like bitter thoughts and angry thoughts, that is what is going to come out of our mouths, rather than the wisdom that the Proverbs 31 woman has. And dear Christian women, our speech should be totally different than what the world's speech looks like. The way we speak to our husbands and our children should look differently. The Proverbs 31 woman spoke with wisdom, and then it says faithful instruction was on her tongue. She faithfully instructed her children. How could she instruct them? Because she had wisdom. In other versions of the Bible, it says the law of kindness was on her tongue. A better maybe description of the way she had a law. She had a filter. She stopped herself from saying anything that was not kind, that was not filled with grace and mercy and the gospel of what we find at the cross. And that is that we find grace and mercy, and we exchange all of our sin and all of our unrighteousness for his righteousness. He covers it all over, and he just forgives us for everything. And that is the grace and the mercy and the kindness and the faithful instruction that we need to be giving to our children, so that they, when they go outside the home, will be respected, and that they will be able to be the wives and husbands that God has called them to be. And so we as mothers need to first live this as examples for our daughters, so that they can follow us, and we need to live this so that our sons know what to look for in a wife. We need to be careful of our thoughts. The Proverbs 31 woman is not silent. We see that she does speak, and so there are times when we need to speak up and we need to speak truth. And there are times when we do need to be guided by wisdom as we carefully talk with those in our community, those in our family, and those around us. So I encourage you to keep walking with the King. Fill your minds with God's wisdom, and continue to fill your minds with the ideas and the ideals of other women who are walking also with the King. Keep walking with the King.